Hey, what's up guys? Got the new ASUS ZenWiFi XT9 that I'm gonna unbox and review, do my full-on speed test, range test, apps, so much more like I always do, full-on review. Smash that subscribe button if you guys haven't already. This thing has a speed rating of AX 7800, which is on the faster side, and it is a tri-band mesh Wi-Fi 6 system. And what a mesh system does is they work together to create a single larger network. So instead of having one router and you get to kind of one edge of your house and you're really struggling to get Wi-Fi signal, think of the mesh system like they're working together, boosting the Wi-Fi coverage so you no longer have Wi-Fi dead zones. And if 2 is not enough, you can always add an additional 1 and make it 3 or 4 or 5. And I mean, there is a limit, but yeah, it should cover most homes. Okay, so Wi-Fi 6, 160 megahertz channel, boost this, boost that, comprehensive online security. ASUS gives you a ton of options, an insane amount of options. They give you the app, they give you the web interface, you could change the SSIDs, you can separate the 2.4 from the 5, all this stuff, whole bunch of stuff. So what they added with the XT9 is now it supports the expanded Uni4 spectrum as a default mesh backhaul. It's basically a third and clean 160 megahertz channel on the 5 gigahertz band, increasing your mesh backhaul capacity to deliver reliable and higher performance to your wireless devices. So think of it like a boost to wireless backhaul. So if you're wirelessly connecting these to each other, that's going to boost the signal. So it looks like you get the ASUS Router App, which I have because I've reviewed a whole bunch of them. In fact, I just finished the GT6. So main unit here, this is also basically the same thing. So opening this up. So this is actually pretty much identical to the ET8. So this is my ET8, which I've reviewed, which is a very good mesh system. And you can see it's essentially identical shape. So looking at this thing, we have a power port, we have a power switch, we have 3 gigabit ports, we have up to a 2.5 gigabit WAN port, wide area network, which is basically the internet connection, and we have a USB 3.0, which basically means you can hook up an external drive and share it among the devices on the same network. So if you had 2 or 3 computers or something like that in an external drive, you could plug it into this and they all can access it. This is basically the main unit. It's the same exact thing. Quick setup guide. It's going to tell you how to connect this stuff. So, I mean, it's pretty straightforward for the most part, but yeah, it tells you how to connect it and everything, and yeah, it should be good to go. Cat 5e, and we have 2 power plugs, 100 to 240 volts, and there it is. It's been 2 weeks since I've unboxed these, using as my main mesh system, and so far so good. So no jobs, nothing abnormal, super easy to set up. In that time I had a chance to do all my speed test and range test using my iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is my Wi-Fi 6 device, and a combination of my Pixel 7 Galaxy S23 Ultra and Pixel 7 Pro, which are my Wi-Fi 6E devices. Now, if you're wondering why test with Wi-Fi 6E devices on a Wi-Fi 6 mesh system, and the answer is simple. From what I've noticed, Wi-Fi 6E devices, even on a Wi-Fi 6 mesh system, typically perform better, and this one is no exception. So, starting with the internet speed test, when you're accessing the internet, you are limited by your internet speeds. In my case, that would be 940 megabits per second download and 880 megabits per second upload. Now, I should also say, assuming the router is even fast enough to go those speeds, which in my case, this is. Now, when I'm hooked up via Ethernet with any one of my computers, really, I do the speed test and I get those speeds no problem. However, Wi-Fi devices are a different story. Looking at the numbers, we got some really good download speeds for Wi-Fi 6 and even better for Wi-Fi 6E. But the upload speeds were slower, and this is typical from what I've seen with pretty much every router that I test. To truly isolate this thing, what we need to do is make a local speed test server. I've done a separate video on this where I go a lot into detail, so I'm going to kind of skip this around, but basically in a nutshell, I make my computer into a local speed test server, and I go from Wi-Fi device to router to computer, and in the case of wired and wireless backhaul, I test from the secondary device, which jumps to this main one, which then goes to my computer. And what this does is it basically isolates the router or the mesh system, because I'm no longer relying on my internet speeds nor the public speed test server. There is a huge increase both for Wi-Fi 6 and especially for Wi-Fi 6E. Wi-Fi 6E is just at another level. Now looking at the wired backhaul numbers, the Wi-Fi 6 device is right around the same as the single router configuration. It is a tad bit slower for the download, but right around the same. However, the Wi-Fi 6E device, you'll notice a huge drop to just under gigabit speeds. The reason for this is that this thing only has one fast 2.5 gigabit port. All the other ports are gigabit speeds, therefore in wired backhaul it's actually being capped to right under that. But pretty much no difference between wireless backhaul and wired backhaul. So this is actually one of the best performing wireless backhaul systems there is, and it's most likely thanks to its Uni4 spectrum that it's using. Now range will vary based on location. If you're in between floors, if you have a lot of walls, thick walls, if you're in a building with a lot of other routers around, all of this stuff can negatively impact your range. Now in my case, at 20 feet away, there's hardly a drop, very good speeds. At 50 feet away, there's definitely a drop, but at this point I am outside. At 100 feet, still going strong, and it goes all the way up to 350 feet, which is the max that I've tested, period, for any mesh system. For setup and configuration, you'll use the ASUS Router App. Now you'll notice that one of these has a sticker on it that says, "Hi, I'm main unit, start with me." So if you have an iPhone, you scan this one. If you have an Android phone, you scan that one. You get the ASUS Router App, and then it'll ask you to scan this QR code as well so you can connect to it. And when you're setting up, these do have to be, I believe, within 3 meters of each other. And then once it's done setting up, you can move the secondary one to, depending on where you want to place it, it'll tell you if it's a bad connection or not. Now, the ASUS Router App has an insane amount of options, and there's even way more if you go to its web interface. Now, you could customize a lot of stuff. You could separate out the bands, like you could call the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz something else if you wanted to, and then the other 5 gigahertz something else. You can use the other 5 gigahertz as a dedicated backhaul, which I was using during my wireless backhaul testing. It does have parental controls. There's also free lifetime security features. So there's a whole bunch of options for VPN. So there's literally an insane amount of options. ASUS, from any mesh system that I test, has the most amount of options, period. Now, is it worth getting the XT9? Why or why not? Well, it depends on your situation. So right off the bat, whether you're connecting wired or wireless backhaul, if you have internet speeds of up to gigabit, this thing is amazing for that. If you have internet speeds up to 2.5 gigabits, it's also very good for that, but do keep in mind that if you were planning on using wired backhaul, the secondary one would be capped to gigabit speeds. Aside from that, this thing is phenomenal, delivers amazing performance, wired or wireless, very good range, just overall pleased with it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment sections below, and as always, smash that subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.